All right, now I'm going to show you a few special techniques that you can use for your 1 point perspectives. So really simply, when you are drawing on the front shapes of your forms, it's really easy to make windows and doors and things like that. All you have to do is just make another square, or you can make a circle, or whatever shape you want it to be in your very, very front of your forms. Okay, so pretty simple, not very difficult at all. Now, where it gets more challenging is when you decide that you want to have a window or a door or some kind of opening on the side of your form. So you can see this one's pretty simple, not a problem. But over here, say I want to have a door. So what I'm going to need to do, I can't just draw a rectangle or a square because, again, on this side, it needs to look like it's going back in space. So it's going to look like it gets smaller as it goes further away. So I'm going to start out with a line. So I'm just going to draw this line here, nice and tall. Okay, it depends on how tall you want your door to be, how tall you want your building to be. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, from the very, very top of this line, so from the top of here to the vanishing point, always to the vanishing point, right? Anything that's on the side like that, I'm going to draw a line that goes back in space. Okay? And then that's going to help me to know where I need to draw my next part of my line. And again, this line here is parallel to the edge of the rectangle. That's the front of the form, and it's also going to be parallel to the back, okay, of my door. So I'm going to draw right here, and you can see that it looks like it's going back in space. And then I can actually add in things like I can add in a door handle if I wanted to make it look like it was actually like a door frame. I could do something like this where I have a little bit on the bottom of my door, like this. Okay, and then I'm going to make sure that I have a straight up and down edge, like that, so it's going to look like a door frame. If you didn't want to have the lower part of the door frame, you can just erase that part that's here, and you can instead just have a door frame that goes like that. So those are a few things that you can do with windows and doors. There are a few of you who have been working on making things like brick or on making either like tiles or lines that look like they're going back in space on your floors, for example. So when I'm drawing those, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make evenly spaced dots at the bottom of my paper. Okay, what I'm going to do from there, you probably guessed it, I'm going to draw coming from my vanishing point out to each one of those dots. Okay, and that right there is what you do for creating a road, for example, that looks like it goes back in space. So I could just create a road like that and just leave it. Or if I wanted it to look like some kind of rows like in a field, or if you're on the inside of a house and you wanted it to look like a wood floor, you could do something like that. Okay, so you can see how that looks like it's going back in space when I'm drawing all those little dots. Then the last thing I wanted to show you for what you can do for making things that look like they're going back in space is, for example, if you wanted brick or block on your building. So you can either draw your brick and block on the front. What I'm going to do, just to save time, is I'm going to do the same thing that I just did for my road. I'm going to make little dots, okay, coming down, okay, from the edges, okay, of my building. If you hear something in the background, that's my son playing video games in the room next door. So I'm going to then, you guessed it again, draw all of those lines looking like they are going from the points that I just drew, okay, down the edge of the rectangle that's the front of my building, going back in space. So this would be siding. You know how if you have siding that goes from side to side, okay, horizontal, this is what it's going to look like. If I were to draw this on the front of my building, and I'm going to switch straight edges here, this needs to be a parallel line, okay, coming across like this, and like this, and like that. So that's how I would continue to do that. And then when you're adding, if you wanted to add in brick or block, that would just be adding in the lines like this. Okay, you can either make it go all the way completely straight up and down. A lot of times blocks you don't want to usually line up blocks, because that means that the mortar that is between your blocks is going to crack. It can crack all the way down. So generally when people are putting in bricks or blocks, they actually will, you can see that these are straight up and down, okay, they will actually put them in staggered. That means that they put a little bit of space between them. Okay, this one, I don't like the space there. I put a little bit too much space. I'm going to grab my straight edge here. Yep, I can see that that was a little bit too far over. Okay, so again, those are, again, some things that you can do for special 1-point perspective things, like different techniques. You'll also notice, like on this one, that I actually added tubes going through, so you can actually have forms like my cylinders going through other forms like these trapezoids, which are kind of like prisms, so that they have like a different look to them, or combined, I guess, different forms together. So I'm gonna pause now, and then I'm gonna show you some things for what you can do for adding some kind of crazy, surreal, interesting details to your artwork.